My mother, she knows me as Mike Harris, but everybody else knows me as TTK. TTK was my tag. What I do, my title, I'm a painter, I'm a graphic designer, art director. I wear a few hats, man. And I had a small line in Urban Outfitters, working on projects for Nas, working on projects for Run the Jewels. Me, I've always done arts as long as I could hold a pencil. My primary influence at the time was probably a comic book artist. I didn't really have anybody to connect to on that, so I just developed it on my own.
If you love something and you give it your all, you can live off of that.
I had to teach myself. I then became all the things that I didn't see.
Your way is not a wrong way. There is no right way.
Always throw the line back.
Keep going, brother, keep going.
Word, because you just like me, man. I was in the Navy for 10 years. I'm an ex-submariner. I was on the very tight, claustrophobic subs, a fast attack sub. I was a sonar technician. I'm not gonna get too technical with it because that's top secret information. A lot of guys knew that I could draw. Guys wanted like tattoos and stuff. My man was from the Bronx. He's like, yo, I saw like this guy customizing sneakers. Why don't you do that? The sneakers was just a canvas for people to see my work. Doing work for celebrities and doing work for brands, it was just, wow, this is just something cool in a magazine that I would like to do one day, but I'm so far removed for it, I don't even know where to even start. Justice Hall was a designer at Timberland. It's not far from where I was stationed at. He came across some custom sneakers and my artwork on display at the skateboard shop right across the bridge from where I was stationed at. When the phone rang, when Justice called me that day, everything changed. Everything changed.
My name is Justice Hall, and I am the creative director for the Creative Seed Agency and also the founder of the Fruit Market. Stepped into that sneaker shop and saw some amazing art. I saw some amazing art, and I was just like, yo, this is fresh. And I didn't know, who was it? And honestly, I didn't put a face to it. I just saw talent. The last thing I was thinking in New Hampshire, Maine, was I was African-American. So when I contacted you and understood that you were of the cloth that I was cut from, you were Black, and see that what I've already was taking an interest to be a brother was very, very refreshing and right on time. I'm gonna work with my brother. Heal my brother, I'm gonna uplift my brother. You changed my life, you know what I'm saying? Keep going, brother, keep going.
Word, because you just like me, man.
Hey, yes sir.
True indeed. It was the first time I saw like someone that looked like me doing what I wanted to do in life. But I just knew I can do this. I can definitely do this. He let me know that, bro, you don't know how close you are to this. Then fast forward years later, I wind up doing that. We wouldn't be doing this right now if I didn't listen to Just. I want this documentary to celebrate the people that helped me get to this point right here. You're seeing me, but I'm a piece of Justice. I'm a piece of Say. I'm a piece of Douglas Davis and so on and so on. Like, you wouldn't have me, you wouldn't have this documentary if it wasn't for those people right there. So this is me like showing them I listened to what you told me, and I hope you're proud of me.
My name is Say Adams. I'm an artist from New York City. My graffiti career dates back to when I'm a teenager in the 70s. A lot of that was just running around New York City trying to figure out a way to express myself creatively. My graffiti years are 1977 to 1985. And then I started doing graphic design. Drawing board graphic design was the name of my design firm that I co-partnered with my buddy Steve Carr, who today is a filmmaker, but at the time we were both artists and we both were graphic artists. I did posters, t-shirts, graphic designs, flyers for all the artists that Russell Simmons managed. So we're talking about Run DMC, Curtis Blow, Houdini, LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, and countless artists that you've never heard of. In 1984, when Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons are forming Def Jam, Russell comes to me and he says, you need to figure out how to design album covers because we're starting a label. And that was the beginning of when I started even thinking about this thing called design. I had to teach myself exactly what graphic design was and how I was going to go about learning this craft. But I knew where I came from, and I knew that there was nothing but good things going forward if I could find a way to get past all these people that were blocking me from the opportunities.
My name is Douglas Davis, and I'm representing Brooklyn. That's where the mortgage is. And I'm the chair of the BFA in Communication Design at New York City College of Technology. On other days, I'm a strategist, I'm an author, I'm a designer. It sort of depends on what day. Creative strategy in the business of design came about just in trying to take the creative side that I already had and learn and add to it the business skills so that I could speak and understand the language of business. I got 2 graduate school applications and I only filled out one. The other one was for VCU, but I filled out the one for Pratt and I got in, and that's how I moved to New York. 2 years later, I had my master's at 23.
My name is Alicia Worthington, and I'm from Queens, New York. I've always considered myself to be a creative. I've been able to work on projects that I couldn't even have ever imagined, right? Working on different album launches, working on the launch of the Decoded book, the brand that I currently work for, which is called Scotch Porter. They were looking for someone to oversee the marketing and e-commerce. I was like, you know what? Grooming is the new black, right? Anyone who's familiar with the Rocawear brand, you know it started in 1999. So as you can imagine, the early 2000s, the 90s, that was like the it brand. And at that time, I was actually overseeing all of e-commerce. If you wanted to be a music producer, there are lots of Black music producers that you can model and sort of look after. If you wanted to be a hairstylist, you wanted to be a basketball player, right? But for me, it was one of those things where, wow, who do I have to look up to in this world?
My name is Dana Givens. I am from Detroit, Michigan, but I live here in Brooklyn, and I am a digital product designer / visual designer. And I've been drawing since I was old enough to pick up a pen or pencil or crayon. I used to work at WebMD. I worked on this app called Pop Viewers. Pop Viewers is a Black-founded app. It's an entertainment-focused app that gives its users more of a voice when it comes to reviewing movies, reviewing TV shows, and I believe the app was started because when it comes to reviewing or critiquing movies, TV shows, voices of color are not really in that realm. This app really gives power to those voices so that we are critiquing movies that we're in, instead of hearing the point of view from, someone that's not a person of color.
My name is Julian Alexander. I'm an artist, creative director. I run a studio called Slang Inc. that does creative direction, branding, and design for lifestyle and entertainment clients. I won a Grammy in 2004 for my work on designing Miles Davis's The Complete Jack Johnson Sessions. Get Rich or Die Trying as an album package is something that people look at. It's a seminal moment in my career. It's definitely something that is one of my most widely known works. The thing that's special about that package is what it did, how it's become a part of the culture.
I'm John Petty III, affectionately referred to as JP, please that. I'm from Philadelphia, the greatest city in the world. I'm the head of social at Wieden Kennedy, New York, and also managing partner at a creative services agency called 14th and Market. 14th and Market, the name is an homage to the city of Philadelphia, and it is the center of the city. We like to bring our creative opportunities to the heart of that intersection. It's where the block meets the boardroom. 14th and Market is also a home for the diverse perspectives that I know this industry isn't built for. The storytelling industry has a tendency to box out. Most recent work that I'm super proud of is some work that I did for McDonald's. We introduced signature meals, and the first introduction was one for Travis Scott. And the reason I like this work is because I like to sit back and imagine that this work is having the same effect on the kid next door as the Reebok A5 commercial had on me. They get a chance to look up and see one of their cultural heroes on television. There aren't many black creatives in the advertising industry because the shit wasn't built for us. That's just facts.
Being in the Navy on a sub and not around people that had like creative interests like you know, it was isolating. You know, it was definitely isolating. But being up there, the isolation made me focus more on myself. It gave me time to like really like focus more on like my art, because that was always like where my heart was at. You know, I didn't have time to do it, or I didn't really make time to do what I love, you know, and being up there with nowhere to go, really, I took advantage of that.
I'll never forget this one moment when I was on a panel for WWD, and actually one of the panelists also was Kenneth Cole. And so I remember being on the panel, looking in the audience, and again, having that moment where it's like, wow, here's a sea of people, and I don't see anyone I can give a head nod to, you know, a wink to, that kind of could give me just that comfort or that validation or that feel. And when I came back to the office later on that day, I remember the CEO called me down to the office and said, "You were on a panel with my brother?" And at that time, you know, we had just a funny kind of back and forth conversation, but fast forward, when I look back, I'm like, well, why shouldn't I have been on a panel with your brother? And I don't think he meant it in that way at all, but it definitely was a point for me to kind of think twice about, wow, what did it mean that someone would ever even ask the question, oh, wow, you were on a panel with X person? And so being involved in digital early on, being a Black woman, the challenges sort of came from, we don't see people who look like you in this world, right? It goes back to just also things like access, right? No one taught us growing up that digital marketing was a career.
It's a secret society. People don't want you to know that you can be involved in this, you can make a difference in this. Because I didn't have a path when I came up. And there were people actively trying to stop me. Just reminding me, oh yeah, boy, the mailroom is in the basement. And this is, you know, present day. I mean, it was the 80s, but that still feels like present day to me. That's not the Stone Ages. And that was their first thought. They see a person of color and you have a portfolio in your hand, you're a messenger, go to the basement. And I says, no, I'm an art director. And they says, yeah, I heard you. Go to the basement.
In high school, you know, after 4 years, my guidance counselor never had one conversation with me about college. Whether that was on purpose or whether she just didn't understand which options were available to somebody like myself, either way, there was no guidance from places where you should normally have guidance from. I studied graphic design, and all of my professors who taught us graphic design at an HBCU were white. After moving on and going to Pratt, all of my professors who taught graphic design and communication design were white. After, you know, bouncing around at different points, I think I had one Black boss within that time. And then in going to NYU, all of my strategy professors were white. I became a design professor. I then became a strategy professor. I then became all the things that I didn't see.
It's 2021 and we're still struggling with seeing ourselves in messaging. Like sometimes I turn on the television, it could be fucking 30 minutes before I see someone who looks like my niece walk across the screen. That's fucking crazy.
When I was in school, I started seeing the work of Hype Williams and learning what he was doing. And I remember reading about him and this studio called Hex Films. And I saw something about an internship and I was like, yo, I'm gonna get an internship. Nobody told me you're supposed to go out and get internships to gain experience. I wanted to work at a record label at this time. And Jive Records had a summer internship that I applied for and I got it. So I went to the head of the design department at the school that I was at. I went with this letter that was from Jive Records and it said, that they were giving me this internship for the semester and he needed to sign it and acknowledge that I would get credit for participating in this program. The job was mine. He looked at the letter, he read it, he looked at me and he was like, I'm not gonna sign this. And I'm like, why? For me, I'm like, this is Jive Records. KRS-One is signed there, Tribe Called Quest is there, Souls of Mischief are there at this period of time. And I'm like, yo, this is the apex of what it is that I'm even here to do. So essentially, I wasn't able to pursue that opportunity. Fast forward 15 years, this person, the same advisor who wouldn't allow me to have that opportunity, he was celebrating having 40 years at that school in this position, in this role, and he wanted to have this big exhibit in a gallery. Strangely enough, instead of showing his direct contributions, he wanted to celebrate himself by showing his successful alumni. I think I had the most work in that show because he asked me, and he's highlighting the album covers now. So the same thing that he blocked me from getting, he then kind of came back to me to kind of celebrate his achievements by showing that work. In a way of looking at it, I became a marketing piece for the school and that program in particular.
We're not in the same numbers represented in advertising or in design because everything about what we have to go through to bring who we are to work says that you don't belong. It says you don't belong. I mean, we gotta create laws so people don't get fired for wearing their hair natural. And I think that it's not just deliberate in the industry, it's deliberate in the society that we gotta navigate. I took the SAT 3 times and I think my score, my highest score was probably like 780 or 720 or something like that. But, you know, again, by that external measure, I'm stupid. I'm so glad that like it didn't, you know, some dumb number didn't influence what my confidence was.
Being yourself is a lot easier said than done. I've learned personally from compromising myself, you know, what it's done to me and like still trying to be myself in this career. So I'm still learning every day. Probably 13 or 14 or so, I used to have this journal and I used to write in it. And I remember writing about this girl I was attracted to in my class. And I must have fallen asleep writing in the journal because I woke up the next day and the journal wasn't there. And my mom approached me about it. And she asked, are you gay? Or she asked me, are you? And so I just said, no, like I'm not gay. I had to suppress that for a long time. And sorry. When it came time to get a job after college, I was taught to believe that being gay, being a woman, being Black would work against me. And I acted as such because I would dress a certain way in order to get the job that I wanted, not knowing that my talent was all I needed. I thought that maybe it was because of the way I looked and the way I carried myself, and that I had my hair out, that it was done instead of wearing it natural, or that I had on a blouse instead of a button down, or that I had on a skirt instead of slacks or khakis, or flats instead of, I don't know, some cool sneakers. I was getting jobs. I think that the first interview I went on where I actually dressed the way I wanted to dress was maybe 3 years ago. I'm 35. And the first time I felt comfortable being myself was only 3 years ago.
TTK, like right now, what it means teach the kids, educating the next generation of creatives. You may be young and you may want to do something creative, but you don't have the support system that you would need to be like other people out there. Don't think that you're alone. So whatever ideas that you have, or doubts that you have, don't doubt yourself. The ideas that you have, they're not crazy, They're crazy if you don't do them. But just know that there's someone out there just like you. Someone out there that's been in your shoes and accomplished things that they never imagined that they would have accomplished. Don't ever stop.
If you can make an idea come out of your head and become a real thing, then you're fucking special. And you should be put on a platform where everybody gets to see your work.
The book is really about making sure that I left a map for people like me, creatives, who need to learn additional skills in order to keep doing the job that they've been doing as things evolve. Kids who are Black and brown, who have creativity to offer, who need an outlet. If they just had the opportunity to be exposed to what careers there are in creativity, I think that there would be more people.
You think about just being the player, but what about being the referee? What about being the person who actually runs the stadium? What about working in promotions and marketing? What about working in accounting, right? It still affords you the opportunity to participate in something that you love without needing to be just the one thing that you see in front of your face every day.
One of the things that I enjoy most is speaking to young people. I go to high schools and I talk to kids and I tell them about what I do, and I don't tell them because I want them to walk away with I can do exactly what he did. The reason I share my story is to know that if you love something and you give it your all, you can live off of that. You can find your own path and be fulfilled through that.
It's really important for our voices to be heard and for young people to understand this stuff in real time at a young age. Over the years, I've realized that even with all these opportunities, there are so many young people that still have not figured out the formula, or they're not getting support at home, or they're in a bad work situation where they're not being supported. Young people have to understand when you run into those obstacles, you can't give up.
Aside from being yourself, you should definitely learn to accept rejection, learn to accept pushback. There are gonna be some times where there's gonna be self-doubt. I would say to embrace all of it. It's just gonna make you stronger, it's gonna make you better.
I'm not interested in accolades, awards, or fanfare, any of it. The only thing I want to do is share the information that I've learned over the years with young people so they know that this is something that you can do as well. You do need to believe in yourself.
Well, I had to become what I didn't see because, even at HBCU, there wasn't someone who looked like me teaching graphic design. And I think that word belonging that you mentioned is really important because even if I didn't personally feel like I didn't belong because of my personal story and my personal family support, I think that the fact that we don't have the exposure, we Black people don't have the opportunity and exposure to even know what design is as a career option. This is a part of my mission to increase the variety of voices who can make a living with their imagination.
They might not write the same way, their portfolios might not look like the pristine portfolios that we get in our email inboxes when it's time to judge or evaluate talent, but it doesn't mean that those stories are less important or shouldn't be given the same looks. Lean into your perspective and never devalue that. Your perspective that makes you who you are. Always bring it to the table, always run toward it. Don't be nervous about sharing it, and empower your brothers and sisters to do the same. Your way is not a wrong way. There is no right way, in fact. So find comfort in leaning into your way. All of those things is what makes you unique. We thrive on this idea of being unique.
When you make it, always throw the line back because you will want someone to do the same for you.
This is the creative industry. We should be making up new fucking rules every day.